Here in Knoxville, we have attempted collaboration for a number of years, mostly without any formal training. As a result, we have lots of stories to tell where we could have done things better. One of the ones that we wonder about, and honestly we're confused about, is the Compassion Coalition. Compassion Coalition started out with a research project on our city, just trying to figure out good ways that business people could invest their money in Knoxville. Eventually, that led to us taking aim at mobilizing churches and congregates instead of just business people. Led to the production of something called the Salt and Light Guidebook. We took that guidebook, went up and down the streets in our city, handed out to all the churches that we could find, invited them to come to a meeting. And we said to them essentially, here's your city, here's what we've learned. Surely, before God, we could work together in this city and accomplish more together than apart. It just makes sense. Couldn't we do that? And had a number of them said, well, that makes sense to us. Obviously, we haven't been doing a lot of that. We went from that meeting, had about 28 churches show up at that first meeting back in 2000. Had about 28 churches. The very next meeting, we went to a glorious 8. So we went from 28 to 8 churches the next meeting. From that point, and we did not know what to do. We didn't know anything. We didn't know to go get collaboration training. We didn't know anything. The mistakes that we made was, or some of the mistakes we made, well, we formed a committee or a leadership team, but didn't empower that leadership team to do anything. So I would go into the meetings and tell what we would be doing. I did not realize that those around the table had to be human in the direction we were going. I had no training on that, had no clue. I just thought that it was inspiration and just vision would follow. Well, that grew the ranks down to about three, and put someone else in chairman, and we began to try to empower the other churches that came to the table, and the ranks of the Compassion Coalition began to grow at that point. We went from just a few churches, 28 down to 8, down to 3 or so, and then back up to now it's about 100, almost 170 churches. Now, what we are, the Compassion Coalition has become a network more than an actual coalition. They'll do a whole collection of activities in our city together. Depends on if it's Katrina or if it's just day-to-day, weekend. Every weekend they'll go. Churches come together, do furniture together. We have a 5-day-a-week phone service that we've set up. So we get some 400 calls a week come into this. I'm sorry, that's too many. We get about 30 calls a day. Yeah, about 150 calls a week come into this thing from churches and groups all over the city. So the Compassion Coalition has grown from being, just this initial can we work together to this big kind of thriving organization of churches in our city. Now, the mistakes that we made early on was not knowing how to empower churches to have a real seat at the table. We became a nonprofit early on. Some of us think that was a mistake because we took the decision-making ability out of the hands of the churches and more into this board. Felt like the churches then, in their mind, we became just another social service organization that they didn't have buy-in to. And to this day, all these years later, it's still hard to raise money. Compassion Coalition is a very big favorite in the city. It has everybody's favor, but secretly we wonder if we didn't cut our own hand there because we didn't insist that churches stay in the leadership position around the table. So there's a lesson. To this very day, we wonder if we should have structured it differently, more as a coalition, joint decisions. There's an advisory board of church pastors that help make decisions and guide that sort of thing. But the day-to-day operations is the actual ownership of the coalition is in the hands of a board. So that is a decision that we don't know whether we made the right decision or not. churches are super, super busy, so we do question whether, in a wealthy town with lots of, there's no major crises, we're not a poor city, if really we could have stayed together all these years if we'd have been we wonder that. We honestly don't know.